From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazende. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that bell notification button. You get an update every time we upload a new podcast. Sean, it's Wednesday. We are heading into Sunday football, normal Sunday football.
Yep.
Obviously bunched up with Monday Night Football this week. So we just started watching film again today.
Yep.
How did you feel with the second time through, especially watching the offense in the film against the Panthers?
Yeah, absolutely. This is sort of a Monday, Wednesday hybrid pod. This is normally like we normally would get kind of a film review and kind of post-game reaction on a Monday. Obviously, the game was Monday. You saw our instant reaction. So we're going to do a review and preview in this pod. We'll keep it pretty concise just because everyone's kind of playing catch-up a little bit when it comes to the Saints and Panthers. But like Sil said, remember to like, share, rate, review, subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. We're getting some really good numbers on our YouTube channel.
People watch without subscribing. You got to subscribe.
Subscribe, please. But the comments are getting good. It's really been a fun stretch for us. As for the topic at hand, a lot of things have gone into the film review after a very interesting matchup against Carolina because you always felt the Saints were going to win that game, and most of the time they were in control of that game, and yet there are some tangible things that were some causes for concern amongst the fan base, and I think the biggest was, how I guess you can call it disjointed maybe. The Saints offense looked at times. So, of course, I go back to that, and I look at Derek Carr, and I look at the Saints offense, and I look in its totality, what they were doing, what they were trying to do, what's happening in the game. And look, for the second straight week, it really boils down to the second quarter. It really boils down to 3 drives in the second quarter, 3.5 drives in the second quarter where it just wasn't there. And it coincided perfectly, as we said Monday after the game, right when Jamal Williams went out of the game, they got out of sorts, and they just were moving too fast. They were moving too fast. The drive he gets hurt on, the Saints actually finished that drive with a field goal, and there's a play on there that's perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's 3rd and goal. They had been getting pressure, but there were times where the pressure was coming, yet Derek Carr had enough time to just let the play develop just for a half a count longer and probably could have completed a pass and made a big play. And look, and this is the perfect example I'm talking about. It's 3rd and goal. Carr feels pressure because he had been getting pressured up until that time and just goes too quickly to Tony Jones Jr. underneath. If he just lets that play develop, just take a deep breath and just let that play develop, Tony Jones is going to curl right on the goal line. He can get it to him. He probably catches it and falls back into the end zone, or there's like a kind of a bang play at the goal line, and you're very, very close. And maybe at 4th and inches right there, you're probably going for it and getting a touchdown at that point. But you can see he gets rid of the ball way too quickly before Jones is even able to get through and clear and turn. You can throw it before he turns, but it was hastened because the clock in his head had been quickened by the pass rush that was happening. And Jamal Williams going out kind of threw them off a little bit. And as I mentioned before, it's like they forgot they could run the ball the rest of the half. The rest of the half was abysmal. They went, that field goal to finish that drive. Then they went punt, interception, punt. The interception, frankly, was just bad mechanics by Derek Carr. I still trying to figure out exactly what that coverage was, but he didn't see the opposite side. He tried to hit the receiver on the over route, but there was a help guy on the opposite side that was able to very easily pick it up and read it. He was late. He was falling back. Bad decision, bad throw, bad mechanic, just bad all the way around. I think even Derek understood that as well. And then there's a play on 3rd down in their final drive of the half where he misfires on Chris Olave on a deep out. He reads the coverage perfectly, and the throw is there, and he just misses. He just misses on the sideline. Like I said before, he had alluded to it after. He just was moving too fast. He felt like he was playing too fast. So when I went back and watched Derek Carr in his totality, that's really where the the issue came, and it was like this last week as well. The second quarter, for whatever reason, has really popped up and been a little bit of an issue the last 2 weeks. And look, we talked about this, and I think this is kind of what the fans are getting at, who that nation's getting at, and it's more of a scatter shot of sporadic big plays, not down-to-down efficiency. You want big plays to complement an efficient offense. You don't want big plays to offset an inefficient offense. And right now, it's a little bit in that direction. It's not crazy. It's not terrible. But it is a little bit more in that direction than you would like. But one thing I will say this about Derek Carr. They regrouped at halftime. They kind of got themselves together a little bit. Their first drive of the second half, they punted, but one thing I like about Derek Carr is he has an innate sense of when the offense needs some life. And when he needs life, he goes deep. And it worked twice. And the play, obviously, was the play to Chris Olave. You see tonight on Game Plan, we broke it down. Derek felt it. He felt the coverage. He saw the help guy run to Michael Thomas to bracket him, and he saw the other safety rotate with his back turned to Chris Olave, and he let it rip. And Olave, he gave his guy a chance, and Olave proved him right with one of the best catches you will ever see. And then obviously the other one in the fourth quarter, that was a straight up Shaheed run a double move here. I'm throwing it to you the whole way because I don't think that was any sort of reading of the play, and he just saw it, and they must have felt something throughout the game. Hey, Shaheed, can you beat him on double move? Yeah, and he goes and gets it for a 45-yard gain. Look, the second half wasn't perfect. It was punt, touchdown, end of game. So when you average it all out, you watch it all. Last week I came to you and I said I feel much better about Derek Carr's performance after I watched it live and went back and watched it on tape. This I feel pretty much the same. I feel pretty much the same. I felt like he regrouped in the second half watching it live. And when you go back and watch it, you can tell he felt much more comfortable in the second half. So in the interest of fairness, I think I said a B+ last week. I'm going to give it like a B- C+ this week. I think that's pretty fair with the way he played this game. So I will say this, though. The Saints really were in control of that game. They didn't steal it, as we said. They deserved to win. They got the win. It wasn't perfect. It was fairly ugly at times. If they get one red zone touchdown early instead of 2 field goals, that game's over by the start of the fourth quarter. That game's over by then. And there's just no way Carolina is built to come back from a 2-score lead right now. And so that's really big picture from red zone. We can get into the intricate details of what they should call, but when you don't capitalize on those red zone opportunities, you have a chance to put a team away, and it ends up being a little closer than it has to be. But as I mentioned before, they're 2-0, and you rather fix these issues 2-0 as opposed to 1-1 or 0-2.
So I have a curveball question for you here.
Here it comes.
One of our YouTube commenters on our last video suggested that maybe Andy Dalton was tipping off the Panthers with the Saints' current offensive signals. How realistic do you think that is?
That was an interesting thought. Certainly, I'm sure he shared every bit of knowledge that he has of the Saints system since he was the quarterback here a season ago, and you can't change everything. I didn't watch Andy Dalton on the sideline, so I have no idea. And that was the only person to suggest that. I wasn't in the stadium, so I didn't see. So it's an interesting thought, but I just didn't see it. And look, they moved the ball outside of that second quarter stretch, so it wasn't like they were just stonewalled all game. They were just a little bit, like I said before, a little disjointed in their overall execution and efficiency.
All right, so we're heading to the land of cheese this weekend, Sean. Cheese curds aplenty in Green Bay. What scares you about this game? What do you think is going to go down when the Saints take on the Panthers?
Well, what worries me is probably it's more of a macro issue as opposed to a line them up, match them up. Who does this? Who does that? And it's this. We're all playing catch up right now. The Saints are kind of playing catch up right now. They did an estimated injury report today. They did, I guess, a sort of simulated walkthrough. You're playing catch up. It's a short week, but it's a short week going road to road. That concerns me because you're trying to catch back up. You're trying to get everything filled in with your upcoming opponent. You're trying to get your body healthy off of a short week because it's a short turnaround, and then you got to travel twice. last week obviously to Carolina, this week obviously to Green Bay, and plus back-to-back weeks it's a home opener for an opponent. So back-to-back short week, back-to-back road games, plus it's another home opener for Green Bay. So big picture, that's what mostly concerns me about this game. On the surface, still, this looks like a game the Saints should win. They look better than the Green Bay Packers, especially Bakhtiari. We'll see where he's at. I don't know what's happening with Aaron Jones, their running back. He missed last week.
I think he was a full go today at practice.
We'll have to check on that when their injury report comes out. Me personally, at least for the next stretch here, as long as the Saints stay relatively healthy, knock on wood, the two main matchups I'll be looking at week to week is going to be, how does the Saints secondary match up with an opposing team's wide receivers? Because the last two games, it was by far and away the Saints receivers were better than Saints DBs were better than their wide receivers. I think that's also the case this week. I don't know what's happening with Watson, and I don't know what's happening. They have another young rookie that they use, but for the most part, I like the Saints matchup there. And then obviously, Saints offensive line versus the opponent's defensive line. Mm-hmm. And I would say, just looking, again, I'm a little behind on all the film study, but I would say this defensive line is not as good as the last two that they've faced. They have a couple of good defensive tackles, which can be worrisome, but I think overall the Saints offensive line matches up a little bit better with this defensive line than the last couple of weeks. So hopefully that plays itself out in the game.
So I actually just pulled up the Packers injury report.
Oh, what's up? Good.
I was way off with Aaron Jones. He was one of the DNPs today. The other two DNPs were David Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins, their left guard.
That's huge. Bakhtiari is an offensive lineman's offensive lineman. Offensive lineman, you ask offensive lineman, they say he's the best tackle in the game.
Yep.
And then Jones had 2 touchdowns in the season opener.
Yeah, and then I remember it was that screen pass that he caught for the touchdown, and he tweaked his hammy on the way to the end zone. He still scored.
That's it, right. So he's a DMP. That's huge. He's a guy that can beat you catching the ball and obviously running the football as well. So that's huge from a matchup standpoint and a health standpoint. We saw the Saints DMPs were Foster Moreau and Jamal Williams, as we know. Kendre Miller was a full go. Taysom Hill was limited, so that's something to certainly watch going forward. It was an estimated walkthrough. It wasn't a full practice, so they estimated what would they have done had they had a full practice in that scenario. So
the Packers limiteds here: Christian Watson, Rashawn Gary, and one of your favorite guys from the draft, Lucas Van Ness, was limited as well.
Okay. So those are some names there. I mean, every one of those guys are NFL fans know all those names. So that's an interesting list, and the Saints remain relatively healthy.
Yep, and so we talked limited and did not practice. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about a guy that's missing time. This came down today. Marcus Maye. It's a big hit to the secondary, suspended for 3 games due to a breach of the NFL substance abuse policy. How does that impact the defense that has been carrying this team through the first 2 weeks of the season, Sean?
Well, I'll tell you. This is a big loss, one they were expecting. But I think, once the season started and he was there, I think people just kind of forgot about it. And then was kind of slapped everybody in the face today. Like, oh, yep, I forgot about that. He does have a possible suspension, and today, obviously, it was confirmed a 3-game suspension, which is pretty straightforward when it comes to these situations involving the situation Marcus Maye was involved in on the field. Okay, I think Marcus Maye, the football player, is a solid safety, but where he really is impactful and where his absence could become an issue is third down defense. Dennis Allen's third down defense is one of the most unique in the NFL. They go dime. They do not go nickel. They go dime. They have 6 DBs. They can do that because they have faith in their secondary, and rightfully so. So if Marcus Maye cannot go, he is one of the 6 DBs on the field. They usually go 3 safeties and 3 corner slash inside slot corner. If he can't go, who's up? And if he can't go down in and down out, you normally play, it's been Jordan Howden as the dime safety. Who becomes the dime safety? Somebody's got to fill in for Marcus Maye, and I think the Saints' third down defense has been outstanding. I think it's 6 for 26 they've allowed over the last 2 games, and it's because of that third down grouping that they use, and it's because of the versatility of their guys, and you're able to mix max coverages. You're able to give different fronts, different looks, blitz from different areas, lopside the front or overload one side. You can play, 2-man. You can play quarters. You can play, robber, all that stuff. I don't want to get too X's and O's on you. Watch my film study for all that. But I think you can overcome the loss of Marcus Maye with, Jordan Howden, Lonnie Johnson, and JT Gray, but he's more of a special teams guy. But I think when you get into a little more of the intricacies of a third down plan, I think that's where it could show up with a guy like Marcus Maye being absent. So this is a big miss for the Saints over the next 3-game stretch. This is the third player that'll serve as suspension. You have Kamara on his final game, Hayner, and then now the clock starts for Marcus Maye. Like they say, it is what it is. The Saints will have to adjust, but this is just you just can't get quite as. It's just a quality football player that's very woven into the scheme that you won't necessarily have. You won't have his services available. So we'll see if that impacts the team. But I think that's the biggest area: third down defense.
We'll definitely get into more of the minutia of this matchup on Friday when we do our pre-game pod.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts as we head into the rest of this week, though, Sean?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's just the idea of everyone feeling like they're catching up on everything, and that's a little bit of the cat and mouse game with having a Monday night game. You get that on the front end, you get a little bit of extra time to rest, but on the back end, you get squeezed a little bit. Curious to see how this group reacts and responds. This is the last game without Alvin Kamara, so we'll see how they adjust.
Get excited.
From an overall team standpoint, I think the confidence is still good. I think they still feel like everything is going in the direction that they want to go.
All right, you guys heard it here. This has been the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. That's Sean Fazende. I'm Vasilios. We'll catch you guys next time.